Hi, my name is Alexa Lugones, and I'm here to show you the basics on how to play the flute. Alright, so here we have the flute. The flute is composed of 3 parts. The head joint, which is where all of your sound is produced. The body, which contains all of the keys, or at least the main keys. And then the foot joint, which has keys for your pinky to create the low notes on the flute. So when you're assembling, you want to begin first with the head joint and the body. So this is the only woodwind instrument that doesn't really have any kind of cork that connects the parts. So it's pretty much metal. So you want to be careful not to scratch the inside of the instrument. So when you're doing this, you want to just gently twist the 2 parts together. You also should not be pressing on any of these keys so that you don't damage them. So you should just have your hand here and twist accordingly. For intonation, just as a side note, you could twist the head joint out, or you can twist it in, depending on whatever you need. All right, so now we connect the foot joint to the body of the flute. So when you're doing this, please be mindful not to grab the instrument from the head joint to twist the foot joint on, because that could risk the head joint slipping out and then the rest of the instrument falling onto the ground. So you want to simply hold it at the point where the 2 parts meet, and then twist this on like this. Also, not to damage any keys, so don't grab it like this. And that is your assembled flute. For disassembly, you also just begin with the head joints. Just put this down, and then you can also twist this off like this. And then you want to make sure that you clean the inside of the instrument with a cloth like this, or you can have a swab, whatever works better for you. And you just wrap it around like this and twist and turn all the way inside. Like this. And push it through until it comes out on the other side. And you do that for all of the parts. Be mindful when you're cleaning the head joint, because the inside of the head joint has a cork, which is metal, but you should be mindful because when you're putting this inside, you could risk scratching this part here, and that could damage the cork. So just make sure that you don't have any kind of rough surface scratching against that. Like for example, the swab has this plastic part at the end, which if you were to put this inside, could scratch the cork. So just be mindful of that. And that's the basics of how to assemble, disassemble, and clean the flute. So now for some sound production and posture regarding the flute. To produce a sound, you want to have the head joint rest slightly below your bottom lip, like this. And then you want to just direct your air downward into this opening right here. So in order to do this, you should put your lips a little bit forward. You don't want to pull your corners back like this, because if you do, then you're not going to be able to direct the air properly. So relax your mouth, pretend that you're pouting or creating a bunny face like this. And then direct quick air into the head joint. To create lower notes, you simply direct your air further along the wall of the head joint that's facing you. To create higher notes, you push your lips a little forward and direct the air towards the outside of the head joint with quicker air. So it should look a little bit like this. And that's just a little bit of the basics on embouchure. Now for posture, you want to make sure that your hands are relaxed on the instrument. Your fingers shouldn't be flat like this, because you won't be able to play quickly, and you also won't be able to cover the holes if you have an open hold flute. Then your shoulders shouldn't be raised like this, because holding your flute in this position for too long could hurt your muscles here as well as your shoulder, and you'll get tired very easily. If you're standing, you want to make sure that you're not slouching forward but also not leaning back like this. You should have one foot just slightly forward and the other foot slightly behind you, so that you could easily facilitate the air when you're shifting registers. Also, you don't want to have your flute too low like this, because the only way to produce a sound like that would be shifting your head and your neck, which is going to create tension here. But you also don't want to have it too parallel to the ground. I know a lot of marching bands and some people will tell you to hold your flute directly parallel to the ground like this, but this not only hurts my muscles but also doesn't line up with my embouchure. So you want to make sure that the flute is basically in line with how your embouchure is. So my embouchure tends to lean more this way, so I tilt my flute down slightly so that I could create the optimal position for that sound production. So just to give you some perspective. As you can see, whenever I would change the position, the sound would go away. So that's just something that if you look in a mirror or just play around with the instrument a bit, you'll be able to find the optimal place for your flute. Another note on embouchure: when you're creating your embouchure, you don't want to have an opening that's too large because you won't be able to control the airstream. So you want to have a small opening, but if you close too much, then you won't be able to release any air. You also shouldn't have your top lip too over your bottom lip, like that. Really, you should try to flatten your top lip into your gums. So that you can create what's almost like a wall with your top lip and your bottom lip, and just a small opening that allows air to be released. And that's about it. We'll now demonstrate a bit of the flute. I'm going to have a scale, a lyrical excerpt, and a technical excerpt.